Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Peter Winick. I am the founder and CEO of Thought Leadership Leverage. And today we are in episode or podcast number 6 of Leveraging Thought Leadership with me, Peter Winick. I am fortunate today to have with me as a guest, Chip Lutz. Say hello, Chip.
Hello, Chip.
Chip is quite literal, obviously. So let me give everybody Chip's sort of official bio so they have a sense of who we're talking to. So Lieutenant Commander Chip Lutz, U.S. Navy retired, MSED, CSP, is the president and founder of Unconventional Leader and has 27 years of solid leadership experience. He's a retired Navy officer. He has had 2 command tours and also served as the Director of Security for Naval District, Washington, D.C. during September 11th, 2001. In that capacity, he was responsible for the safety and security of 25,000 people in 6 different naval installations in the National Capital Region during one of our nation's most trying times. He's a seasoned educator and trainer. He's currently adjunct faculty for 2 different universities and has taught over 20 different classes. He's the author of 4 books and has been published in Security Management Magazine, and they had a bunch of articles published in Zig Ziglar's weekly newsletter. And he is a leader that has been there, done that, and has the uniform to prove it. So welcome aboard, Chip.
Hello, Peter. Thanks for having me. That's so awesome. Welcome aboard.
So the theme of this show, as you may or may not know, is leveraging thought leadership. So what we're trying to talk about, and well, first of all, we're talking to people like you, to authors, speakers, and thought leaders, and we want to have a rich conversation around what you're doing to get your content out there, to scale, to leverage, to get to more people. So why don't we start with, if you could, give us just a brief overview of Chip World. What are the things that you do? What are the things you get paid to do? What are the ways that you get your work out there that might be for marketing purposes? But give me sort of a broad view of the world you've created.
There's a broad view of me. For most part, I'm a keynote speaker. So, and I work with mostly associations and businesses. So for me, I'll go in, share some leadership strategies or teamwork strategies. And, that's my bailiwick on the most. Sometimes I have a little bit longer training periods. I do have an education background, so I do like, the longer term relationship during the course of a day, because it's a little less show and a little more relationship based. You get to know people a little bit better. But for the most part, I just do keynotes.
Okay. So if I were to somehow find 20 people that were fortunate enough to see you speak in the last couple of months, what are the 3 things you're hoping they would take away and say, what I remembered from the Chip speech is ...
Well, I would hope that they would remember that, leadership is a choice each and every day, that nobody's a natural born leader. That's a misnomer. It's a deliberate choice each and every day that you make a decision on what you're going to do to serve your people every day. I hope they realize or will remember that I'm hilarious, because I am.
And shy.
Well, no, in that humor is a great tool that people can use to connect with people. I mean, we live in a time, very little's changed underneath the sun as far as leadership goes since the beginning of time.
Sure.
But the population's changed, the workforce has changed. So it really kind of comes down to, how do you connect with people? And I want people to realize that, humor is one of those tools as an equalizer between people, that, if you can laugh with somebody, it's one of those things that helps you connect with them. And, maybe you can find out a little bit more with them and motivate them. Third thing, that's a good question, that nobody gets there alone. Everybody's help along the way. That your charge as a leader is to make an investment in other people.
Got it. I love the fun piece, because I think if I were to randomly stop 10 people on the street and say, tell me what you think about leadership, first thing they do is probably ask me if I was nuts, but fun probably wouldn't come up. And I believe that learning and being exposed to ideas doesn't have to suck, right? Like, it could be fun. It should be fun. It could be engaging. It's a higher bar, right? We all remember the professors that we had that were sort of the droning voice of the Peanuts, the teacher on the Peanuts or something. But to make it fun, to make it engaging, to have a laugh over something that's not just, somebody slipping and falling or something like that, that's a bit of a higher bar, I think.
Well, and it takes an element of risk. I mean, you have to kind of,
Sure.
get rid of your ego. You have to get rid of your positions in a way. But leaders that can laugh at themselves and laugh at their own mistakes show a whole different kind of bravery, and they help create an atmosphere of risk without fear of reprise. That if you're strong enough and brave enough to laugh at yourself, then I can do the same thing, because then we're going to laugh about it and we're going to find the learning in what we just messed up. And I think,
And it makes you
yeah,
human, right? It's a common denominator, even though I might outrank you or whatever. There's certain things that everybody as a human being can relate to and connect to on an emotional level. So let me ask you this. Most of your work is speaking and
mhm,
workshops. So that's hand to
mhm.
hand, right? That's, we're selling Chip and a couple of flavors there. So let's go backwards and talk about how you're finding the work, right? So in the good old days of whatever 10 years ago, it was largely bureau controlled. Give me a sense of the breakdown of where business comes from and what you're doing that's creative to get business in the door and land keynotes and get clients satisfied again and
That's
again and
always the
again.
big question, isn't it? Where does your work come from? Sometimes, and what's interesting to me is that most of my work actually comes from referrals. That when I go out and speak, I usually speak more, but landing those initial ones, usually comes from good old fashioned producing content. I write consistently. And I like your thought leadership leverage. Thinking of things. For me, I've never thought of myself as a thought leader. I always think of myself as an application guy. I look at looking things differently and thinking about things differently, but I also like to know what works. And so, that's what I try to produce content on, because like I said, not much has changed in the world of leadership. However, we have a constant churn in that area, and people are always learning, need to know how things work. And how do I do this? How do I do that? And so for me,
Sure.
that's the content I try to produce, and where most people find me. They like my content.
So let me play that back to you with a little bit of a different twist. So again, this is the business side of content, the business
Mhm.
side of thought leadership. So at some level, there's not much new in leadership, and I totally agree with that. There's not much new in
Mhm.
most things. A lot of what differentiates someone is the packaging or the little what you're adding to the conversation, what your nuance, your shtick, if you will. And I don't shtick's probably
No.
not the right word, but what you can add
Mhm.
or differentiate. So if on the one hand I say, leadership speaker, you're a commodity, you're right. If I'm going to hire you, I can go and there's 100 other guys or gals that I can hire. So how are you using the content as a differentiator? You said you're
Well,
putting a lot of stuff out there in writing. That's more on the branding and
mhm.
lead generation. So right, is that's you're not getting paid to do that per se, but
No, no, no. It'd be no. Just constantly like on my blog. Then I repurpose it on LinkedIn. I might use part of it if I'm talking on a podcast. It just kind of depends. So I'm.
no, but there's some nuggets there that you're fast forwarding over. So what you said that most people don't do or don't realize is you've got your blog. So your personal blog is a low risk place. You can
Mhm.
jump on your laptop, jump on a plane, and crank out a couple blogs, throw it on there. Then you say, oh wait, that one's actually more interesting than this one because people are commenting or whatever. That's sort
Mhm.
of a laboratory in real time. And then the repurposing, and this is a key. I drill this into my clients all the time. Is that many people in the content space, not all, but many, don't repurpose. So what they're constantly doing is holding themselves up and putting themselves under this unnecessary pressure of I got to produce, I got to produce, I got to produce new stuff. And I think the reality is, if you take a blog and then you can put that on LinkedIn, or for example,
Mhm.
we're creating content right now. Right, we're having a conversation. It's pretty easy to do. We're chatting. Maybe some cool things will come from this that I can turn
Right.
into a blog post or you can turn into a blog post as opposed to staring at the proverbial blank sheet. So tell me about how you repurpose and then tell me if you're repurposing into multiple modalities.
I am repurposing into multiple modalities. Thanks for reminding me of that, because I very much what you just said is what I do. So with anything that I write for my blog, I will repurpose that onto LinkedIn. Since they opened up long form publishing a few years ago, I took all my content, put it on there, which got me. I'd already been on LinkedIn since 2007, since it was pretty much its inception. So I've got 3,200
Mm-hmm.
first line contacts, but then I have 4,500 people that follow my work, which isn't huge, but it's still 4,500 additional people that read my stuff. And what's interesting about that is that
Sure.
I'll get a lot of content, and I'll be comments back, and I'll be able to, build some relationships with people. So if they're looking for a speaker, or I can reach out and say, hey, have you thought about doing this? It's one of those things I can do. In the same respect.
So wait. So hold on. I want to pause you there, because you're fast forwarding to something that is intuitive to you that a lot of people don't do. A lot of people treat the content side as unidirectional. I'll put my stuff up there and that's it. But it sounds like you're going in there and actually monitoring the content, the comments, and responding to them and engaging in the dialogue. Touch on that for a moment, if you could.
Well, I mean, it's imperative. I mean, like you said, if it's one directional, one way communication, they're not going to really know anything about me except what I write. And like with any, sales, it's really about the relationships. If I can, spark up some kind of conversation, and it doesn't always lead any place, but you never know, 5 years down the road, that person might be in a position where they need a speaker. It's like, hey, I remember this guy here, we had a good rapport back and forth on this, it might be the thing that does it. I don't ever go for the hard sells like, hey, bring me in. For me, it's just trying to build some rapport and build some relationships online. Because it's kind of like, I don't know if you remember the movie Mrs. Doubtfire, when he's at the pool and throws a orange, and it was a drive-by fruiting, so just it shouldn't be like that on your social, where you just like post something and leave it, like those people that post like the big dramatic things, like I'm so sad, and they just leave it. Well, you're leaving me hanging here. I need more. Give me what's going on. Right. I think the same thing rings true with, the things that we post content wise, is that you have this piece of yourself that you put out there for content. And people might want it a little bit more. Maybe they disagree with you, and that's cool. I like those discussions. Like, well, why do you disagree? Because for me as a leader, I'm always in learning mode. So
sure, and conversation and engagement is a higher level of connection than I could read your stuff all day and night, but you'd never know it. Now, if I make a comment, whether I agree with you, disagree with you, add something to it, and you respond to that, that's a whole different level of connectedness that we now have, right? And it doesn't mean that I'm going to book you tomorrow, but you've differentiated yourself. So one is you're human. You're not just some robot, putting content up there. Talk about the modality. So you have a great idea. It's on a blog. You put it on LinkedIn. What else do you do with it? I mean, infographics, video. Give me some.
Well, I will probably take the same content. I have, since I started speaking a decade ago, I sent out a monthly newsletter to my list. Anytime I go out and speak, I try to collect people's information, and I don't spam them. I don't, sell them stuff, try to sell them stuff. I just like my leadership thoughts for the month. I put them in a newsletter format, and I send that out. And consistency, I think is the key for my business, is that the things that I do consistently are the things that provide results. So like I have done that consistently for, every month for 10 years. And, that some people, like last year, I just worked for Sargento, and, the woman that brought me in had been on my list since the beginning. I mean, she was, one of the first people, but and she finally had an opportunity to bring me in. But because I was consistent in what I was doing, I was still, kind of top of mind. She, was able to follow what was going on, in my speaking career a little bit. So I think that is worth mentioning, that a lot of times we try something really quick and it's like, oh, that didn't work, I'm going to try something else. But, consistency.
Yeah, this is not a get rich quick business. So I love the fact that the consistency. So consistency to me, there's sort of two pieces to that. There's a cadence. So if I'm on your list and I look forward to seeing those, and I know that when that pops into my mailbox, it's going to be thoughtful, and you're not, it's not the vacuum cleaner hose pointed towards my wallet, right? You're giving me good thoughts. You're sharing with me. It's refreshing. It's good. It's insightful, and it's smart. The second piece I would ask you on the consistency, and I think you do an awesome job on this, is there's a certain expectation I have when I see your newsletter coming in. I'm not expecting you to do a review on a restaurant you went to, or tell me about your water skiing follies or something like that. Like I'm expecting insight on leadership. And by the way, you have fun with it, and there's your personalities in there. But I think sometimes what happens is thought leaders feel like they should just be commenting on everything. And I think that focus and the discipline to make sure the core, the essence of what your messaging is, ties to what you do. So can you touch on that for me?
Well, for me, it's more of I don't comment on everything simply because I don't know about a whole lot of things. So, I mean, my wheelhouse is, leadership and teamwork. And, on my newsletter, I mean, anything that I write, I share my experiences, because I think that's one thing that separates me from, some other people, is that I've been in some pretty big, leadership positions. Yeah, and it's some of those things where you think you know things and you realize you don't know anything. Sure. And then for me, it's kind of a mission to help, other leaders, bridge that education gap of like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. I can do that. So when they do get it, and I get comments every month, emails back from my readership saying, it's like, oh, I was really looking forward to your newsletter. It's always got some good insights for me. Mm-hmm. Or like, hey, I was just thinking about that the other day. So like you said, it's not salesy. It's just, my thoughts, and I try to make it, applicable to whatever, I'm going through, but I figure everybody else is going through as well.
Well, and it's probably more effective from a sales perspective because it's not salesy, right? People know when you're, I call them sort of the yellow highlighter marketers, more the information marketers, where every email I get, it's like, oh my God, it's going to expire at the end of this email if I don't call today, and it's only $297. And oh, wait, now it's $197. And if I keep reading, you'll pay me. Like there's no, I think people are smarter than that. And I think there's a respect that you have for people's intellect and not creating this artificial crazy sense, book me today to speak or I'll get laryngitis or whatever.
Well, again, to me, it's even with my newsletter, it's about the relationship I have with the people on there. Like I respect the fact that they stay subscribers, and that they're loyal subscribers. And I believe that sure. When an opportunity arises, because I'm true in my relationship with them, that they'll bring me in. Well, I have one other thing that I do that I just started, I think goes with consistency. Like, last year I started my own podcast. So with that, like you were saying before, I repurpose that information as well. So I'll take, some excerpts from the podcast, I'll put on my blog, I might put on LinkedIn, just kind of another cycle of things. And even with that, at the end of the year, first year, I was measuring like, is this something I'm going to continue? Not. And then, it was kind of twofold, and that I really enjoy it. I really enjoy talking to other leaders about leadership, one, but two, I know that if I stay with it consistently, it will provide results.
Got it. And I think the other piece about whether it's podcasting or video or whatever is experimenting with various modalities. There are speakers mm-hmm. tend to be, their most effective communication is vocal, right? You speak. Doesn't mean you can't write, but some people are more, their default sort of mode of communication might be written. Some people might be spoken. Some people are fun on video, whatever. And I think, there's so many different ways and so many different tools out there to find mm-hmm. something that's in your comfort zone that enables you to create content it's relatively easy for you to do and valuable and able to be purposed across mm-hmm. multiple formats. So going back to the time machine for a moment. So you've been at this for 10 years. You're incredibly successful. Lots of folks admire the work that you do, and you're making a living at it, and you're having a blast, and you're impacting a lot of people's lives. So right now out there somewhere mm-hmm. is Chip Lutz 10 years ago, but he's not named Chip Lutz. He's Chip Lutz 2, right? And give that person 2 or 3 nuggets of advice on how to really make a difference and be successful as an author and a speaker and a thought leader.
That's a hard question. See, if I was going to give myself advice, I would, first piece of advice I would tell people is just to be you. I mean, be true to who you are as a person. That, a lot of times when you start out, you have people that you admire in a certain venue or business. Like, I want to be just like that person. And so you think, well, I've got to be, I like to have fun. I like to have a good time. But then I found myself, all my writing at the very beginning was very, very serious. It's serious, because, these other leadership speakers are all serious. And then I found that it was really stripping all the joy out of what I was doing. And that once I got in touch with, this is who I am, I was much more, authentic in my writing, which resonated better with people.
Mm-hmm. And you have to find that, right? So at the beginning, I think what you said is true. Mm-hmm. You're replicating the greats. Mm-hmm. So you're putting on this, I am now Chip the leadership guy, right? Versus developing who you are in a different voice and a different channel. So yeah, so that's one piece of like being authentic. I love that because there's nothing worse than sort of you see this more on the motivational stage, like, oh, that person woke up today and thought they're Tony Robbins, and they're not.
Right. The second thing I would tell people is that people will tell you these are the things you have to do. You have to do this. You have to do that. And I don't think there's any one clear path to get into success. Everybody defines success differently, so I have a friend of mine that has a job, that I wouldn't define as success, but he's very, very happy. So he's got his own definition of success. You need to define that yourself. However, everybody tell you that, oh, this is the path, this is the path, this is the path. And I would tell myself, don't be afraid to try something different, that there's no one set path on getting there, wherever there is that you have to, experiment a little bit, see what works for you. And if it works for you, then do it a little bit more. And if that works, you do it a little bit more. There's no one set path.
Well, by definition, experiment means be comfortable with failure, right? Right. So you're going to try something, you're going to fall down and go, that was pretty dumb. And then just try something else. It's an experiment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the heart of innovation is our ability to try something without fear. And, fear is like somebody tells you, this is what you need to do. And then you get kind of scared. It's like, well, that's just what I was supposed to do, especially if you grew up in a military environment like I did, so, and the third thing, and it's a piece of advice I got a couple of years in, it was from Jim Ziegler, who's also a speaker. And he said, how did he put it? It was something more about, I'm trying to think exactly how I put it because it was so eloquent of, bewaring of, like pitfalls disguised as opportunities, something in that vein. That a lot of times, it's one of those things that's like, oh, this is the best, the greatest, sign up for this, book writing camp or this, there, here. And all it ends up doing is, costing you a lot of money and you feel like broken afterwards.
Yeah. So if it's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true.
It probably isn't. Exactly. So for me, I just, I look at everything with kind of a critical eye and think, all right, is this supporting where I'm going? Talk to a few other people about it. Because I get really excited, like a lot of people, I see something like, oh man, that seems really awesome. Like my first book, what a colossal piece of crap that was. Because
is that the review on the cover from the author? A colossal.
No, I'll tell you straight out. I mean, I'll be honest about it because, like I said, I believe in authenticity. Is that everybody said you need to have a book? So, I went with this company that was doing like this interview book, right? And I got my 1,000 copies with my picture in between Stephen Covey and Ken Blanchard, and I was just like, whoa, man! And then when I got it, I was like, man, this is. And so for anybody out there that purchased it, I am sorry.
Well, apparently there probably weren't that many people to apologize to, it sounds like.
Right, exactly. I still have a box of them in the garage.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want them, we'll put that comment on the cover and he'll autograph them. So, okay, as we wrap up, tell folks where they can find you, reach you, hire you, stalk you, whatever you'd like them to do.
Easiest is to email, go to my website, unconventionalleader.com, or email me at chip@unconventionalleader. I'm on LinkedIn, Chip Lutz, Facebook, Chip Lutz, Instagram at Chip Lutz, Twitter at Chip Lutz, Chip.Lutz on Instagram. I pretty much own Chip Lutz. Although, there is a senior golfer on the PGA Tour named Chip Lutz. And if he has a good game, sometimes things could get confusing on Google if you Google me. So
so Nike's sending you gear for no reason or something like that. Anyway,
that would be awesome.
That'd be kind of cool. Well, anyway, I want to thank you for sharing your journey and some valuable insights to folks on leveraging thought leadership. And I appreciate the work that you do. And I am on your newsletter and I enjoy it. So,
well, I appreciate the fact that you thought of me to be on the podcast because I enjoy your content as well. So for your session at NSA, I still think about that a lot of times. Like just even with the last book I just wrote, I was thinking, Peter was right. Why does anybody write books? Nobody reads anymore.
I still read 2 books a week, but
you're an anomaly.
Yeah, I'm an anomaly. I appreciate everything, and it was great to have you on today, and thank you so much.
Thank you. The pleasure was mine.
To learn more about Thought Leadership Leverage, please visit our website at thoughtleadershipleverage.com. To reach me directly, feel free to email me at peter@thoughtleadershipleverage.com. And please subscribe to Leveraging Thought Leadership on iTunes or your favorite podcast app to get your weekly episode automatically.